Suddenly, the hero remembered the words of Master Alvinzum. He asked Julius to listen, and asked what the most powerful thing in the world was: strong magic, an invincible army. But he said the correct answer was girls, because no one can resist them. The hero thought it was drunken delirium, but now he had doubts. The elf girl allowed him to lean on her. The guy thought that they were truly invincible. It was a real pleasure for him. The second girl grinned and said that she would take him to heaven. It was a pleasure because it was impossible to resist them. The girls were talking, one telling the other to tie him up as quickly and as tightly as possible. The taller girl said they were moving out. The second one was pulling a cart with the tied-up hero behind him. He didn't understand if he was really being kidnapped. The hero believed that the stupid prince was to blame for everything. Time goes back 3 years. The kingdom of Zweik is at war with neighboring countries. Thanks to the success of their super-powerful first army, led by the crown prince, the war is on the verge of victory. Victory was already at hand. Someone in the palanquin cried out, asking about the pursuit. At the table sat the commander of the second army of the kingdom of Zweik, the third prince, Ariolf Zweik. The man was irritated that the court magician was expressing his opinion to the prince, but Julius continued to convince him that the chase was definitely a decoy. The magician said that besides, this was happening in the night forest where it was raining, the conditions were too bad, and if they pursued them further, they might suffer damage. The prince told him to shut up. The prince, irritated, replied that sorcerers were supposed to be scouts, not tacticians. Julius shouted that the prince was mad and trying to ruin a battle that could be won. Our hero was the court magician Julius Cassel. The prince shouted that the magician should not dare to doubt him as the future king. The magician still insisted, saying that this was his opinion and he was sure that this was a trap. The prince shouted that this was actually their chance. The prince replied that he did not want to listen to him because he considered the magician a war-weary fool who was undermining their fighting spirit. The warriors around him began to call the hero a pathetic commoner, and if it weren't for the royal court, he would have been beheaded for criticizing the royal family. Julius thought about how he had been scouting, being a messenger, and sabotaging everything, and almost always alone. He asked the warriors if their reputation was really important to them. They got angry. Julius said that the lives of soldiers should be more important to them now, not the fight for the throne, although the crown prince has a better chance. This angered the third prince. The hero sighed, saying that he wouldn't be in such a hurry if he were him. Ariolf, enraged, swung his sword, hitting it on the chessboard. He pointed his sword at the hero, saying that he was tired of tolerating him and ordered him to return home immediately. The hero considered him a complete freak, because he knew that the truth was on his side. The prince shouted for the magician to get out of his sight, and called Julius a dirty scavenger. The hero thought the prince was brainless and that it was because of him that they would lose. The hero asked if he was crazy and the prince told him to shut up. The hero didn't understand if the prince realized what all this was leading to. Julius sighed, telling the prince not to forget that the enemy was following them, although he no longer cared. The prince laughed, telling the hero to get away, and when he returned home he would be court-martialed for desertion. The hero left while they laughed at him and said that in the best case he would not get a job at all. Smiling, the hero said that he would see how they would be acquitted at the tribunal and wished them luck in battle. From the palanquin they called out to him with fury while the hero, sticking out his tongue, walked away. Since time immemorial, sorcerers have been looked down upon in the kingdom of Zweik. Strong men with swords are heroes, and sorcerers were considered mysterious and enigmatic people. As the hero's teacher said, fools can use swords, but fools cannot understand magic. The hero believed that his teacher was right as always. One of the warriors passed by and asked Julius if he was going on reconnaissance, and he replied that he was going home, causing surprise. The hero used dimensional magic. Judging by the weather, the hero believed that the soldiers would not last until dawn. They were cold, although it is incomprehensible for the elite to leave work to chance. The hero remembered the prince's insult and gnashed his teeth in anger, sending him away. Still, the kingdom of Zweik won the war. But the second army was taken by surprise by enemy forces, who took advantage of the geographical position. It was a crushing defeat. But this was only the beginning of the hero's hell. The prince screamed at the top of his voice that Julius was to blame for everything. He cried, saying that it was all because of the magician, who of his own free will fled before the enemy and they lost the scouts, not noticing the enemy ambush. He pointed his finger at the magician, saying that the prince himself had done nothing wrong and that it was all his fault. The foolish prince blamed everything on Julius, who did not understand where all his military pride had gone. He was angry at the judge with his royalist tendencies. The judge said that he was removing Julius from his position as court mage and ordering him transferred to the potion factory. The master could not help Julius in this, but thanks to him, the hero was at least not sentenced to death, but his elite court magician was transferred to the potion factory. 3 years have passed since then. The hero worked in an unhygienic environment with rats running around. He decided to stop thinking about it and concentrate. Someone called out from Julius's direction. There were 3 men standing there. The taller one asked how long the hero was going to keep doing this. The second one told him to come to them right now, and the third one said that he would never finish it in a day. The hero sighed, thinking about the annoying alchemists. A simple course of brewing potions by Julia. Raw water and materials obtained from demons with a strong life force living in the dungeon. It is necessary to place everything in a huge tank and dissolve it with the help of magical power to create an essence. The hero is engaged in such preparatory work. The other alchemists continue his work creating a restoration potion. More than 200 alchemists work 24 hours a day in 3 shifts for a meager wage. The men shouted at the hero if he could hear them, telling him not to ignore them and to work harder. The hero found it funny that this was an important state enterprise. The hero considered it all stupid because it was like throwing money away. The alchemist was called a fool, asking what he was talking about and why an ordinary magician was trying to act smart. The third said that Julius was not an alchemist, so he shouldn't just blabber like he knew what he was talking about. The hero said that he saw that they were quite verbose. The tall alchemist told him to hurry up because he did not want to work overtime. According to the hero's master, Zweig's alchemists are corrupted by industrialization, and this is what happens when people go bad. The hero said that if there were problems, they would blame it on him. He was the only one who did it, even though it was a simple job and no alchemist could do it. He believed that it was undoubtedly the prince's merit. The alchemists said that the hero had no right to appear here and should be proud of their work. The hero was angry and mentally asked them to shut up. The hero was already extremely angry, thinking that he would not allow this place to destroy him. A voice was heard from the side, asking what they were all doing here. It was the factory manager, Henry. One of the alchemists called out to the manager saying that Julius was at it again. Henry asked the hero how far he had come. The hero replied that he had gone about 80%, and then the man, as the director, ordered him to hand over the raw materials to them immediately. The hero asked if he was serious. Henri told him to move, and he was forced to obey. The potion was 20% less effective, so he said he would not take responsibility. The alchemists gloated as they left, calling him a former genius. Henri asked the hero if he agreed, and he replied that they would screw up someday. The man said that if Julius wanted to come back, he'd better be more accommodating. The hero would ask what to do if complaints were filed against them. Henri replied that it didn't matter and that he should just focus on mass production. Julius replied that it would cost the lives of adventurers and soldiers. The man said they had enough supplies to replace them. The hero winced, asking again. The hero clenched his fists, realizing what the nobles really thought of them. Henri told Julius to be reasonable and not to forget that he owed him for hiring a traitor. Someone was eavesdropping on them. The man said not to forget that Gon wanted to help him, but Julius didn't understand what he meant. Henri said that the hero was good, but he wasn't trying hard enough. He didn't want to die like this, but if he tried, he could get his title of court magician back. The hero didn't believe that this hell would end. The man added that this was if the prince allowed him. As he left, he told Julius to work hard and get rid of the rats. The hero considered his life cursed. Picking up an apple core, the hero realized that a thief rat had taken up residence in the factory. A thief rat is a low-class monster. They are omnivorous, disgusting, and steal food. The hero wondered where they were stealing so much food from. Sometimes it seemed to him that they lived better than people. Sounds came from the closet, and the hero became scared. The hero approached the closet in fear and said what a surprise it was. Apparently, there was a big rat in there. He began to use magic, telling the rat not to be offended. He opened the closet, but inside, there was a girl who started squeaking like a mouse. The hero froze, not understanding what it was. Guanta labyrinths are dungeons owned and operated by the Kingdom of Zweik. All the adventurers looking to make a fortune gather there, and they bring the country great wealth and resources by exploring the labyrinths. Recovery potions are a strategic commodity in the Great National Labyrinth Exploration Project, and are an important item that sells like hotcakes and enriches the country. The hero wondered who this girl was as she continued to imitate the squeak of a mouse. A staff was brought close to his forehead. The elf used paralysis magic on the hero. He fell to the ground shaking and surprised that this girl was a magician. She said that it was not funny. The girl was bored because she pulled this trick again. The hero managed to get up and asked what she was talking about, but the paralysis was still in effect. She, smiling, told him not to even try because he would not be able to move. They called from Clen's side. The second girl approached them, asking how everything went. Clen told her sister that she thought it was a great success, they had everything they needed. The guy didn't understand what that meant. The girl hugged him, apologizing and telling him that he just needed to be patient. The girls were talking about how it was time for them to hide. The hero didn't understand if it was all true. Clen, pushing the cart, said that the kidnapping was a great idea. Finally, it dawned on Yuli that they wanted to steal him. This is how the hero ended up in this place. Quite a while had passed since then. The paralysis had worn off, but he couldn't use magic. He wondered if they were going to kill him. Clen noticed that the guy had already woken up. The second girl entered the carriage, saying that she already knew that the hero was resistant to all types of damage and asked if he had come to his senses. Clen answered that it looked like he had. The guy was surprised that these two girls were his killers. He saw the ears and realized that they were elves. The taller girl said that it was understandable because he was a court magician and it was promising. Clen replied that they could not be too careful. The hero, freeing his mouth, shouted that he didn't know what they wanted, but they would have to let him go if they didn't want problems. They immediately covered his mouth with a hand, asking him to promise not to make noise, otherwise he would get into big trouble. The girl asked if he understood her, but the guy at that time was thinking only about how close she was to him. Julius asked if they even knew who he was. He was a court magician. The girl corrected him, saying that he was a former court magician and felt sorry for him. She said he was clinging to his former glory, and it was pathetic. The guy was thinking about what it was with her. The second girl took Clen off the guy, telling her to stop enjoying it. The girl wanted to object, but Raja replied that there were no buts. Enjoying the suffering of others was bad. Clen looked away, saying that it was not like that. Clen trembled, saying that she'd just like to see people suffer and that everyone did it. The hero sweated, thinking that she was a real sadist and that no one did that. Raja said that the hero must be having a hard time with the bracelets on his arms. The hero only now saw the bracelets of silence on himself. This is a bracelet that blocks magic, often used against servants. Now the boy understood why he could not use magic. They asked if the hero had any questions, and he asked who they were, if it was a kidnapping, if he was definitely the target, and also told them not to dwell on his past. The girls started whispering among themselves. Turning to him, they finally introduced themselves as Maple and the Raja and said that they were beautiful elven spies. Clen said that he was right about the kidnapping. The guy was skeptical, wondering what kind of weirdos had kidnapped him and whether they really called themselves beautiful. Raja could tell from his face that he didn't believe them. The girl gave him proof. The boy was surprised that they stole the sphere, saying that the director would probably be furious. The sphere is a crystallized form of high-density magic used as an auxiliary power source for large-scale magical and alchemical devices, very expensive. The hero suggested that this might close the factory. Clen was giggling nearby. The girl gave him a thumbs up and said that they were good for stealing it from the one who was tormenting him, and the hero agreed with her, but then said that it wasn't her, because she was tormenting him too. She said never to say that again. The guy remembered that they called themselves spies, and said that they looked more like bar dancers. The girls said that they didn't like Zwick's clothes because they were too heavy, and that it was the usual attire in their kingdom. The hero said that, however, they stole the kingdom's potion-making skills and called it a comedy act. The girls did not understand why he was saying this, and Gon replied that it was because he was not an alchemist, but an elite magician. But they remained silent. Clen said they were not mistaken. Raja said they had been watching the factory for a month trying to figure out who was the best alchemist, and it was Julius without a doubt. Clen was happy, saying that the potion brewing in this country was over and it was a complete collapse. The hero considered her rude. Julius said that was why he said he was a magician, they could make potions without him. Raja said that it was no wonder he didn't understand it, because he probably thought that because of the prince he would remain at the factory for a long time without having time to do anything. The hero was surprised that they seemed to know everything about him. Raja said that it was true and he might not realize it, but Julius was really the one behind the whole factory. Too much magic kept the factory running. The guy denied it, saying it had nothing to do with him. He didn't want to be around them and he didn't want to think about it at all. He didn't care what would happen to the factory. He asked where they were taking him. The Raja said that they were taking him to the land of the desert elves, Shambhala. The hero had never heard of it, and even more so did not think that he would ever get there. He did not even know in what area the desert was. Maple told him about beautiful oases and couldn't wait to show him a sparkling oasis. The hero replied that he didn't know what an oasis was. Raja wanted him to work in the very center of the country. She was sorry that things had come to this. She approached him saying that they didn't want to make things worse and he just had to trust them. The guy agreed and told them to leave him alone. He believed them. He didn't understand how he got into such a situation. Klen sarcastically asked why he was sad. The hero thought what a strange company they had, Raja the fluffy one and Klen the sadist. The Raja said that it was all for free. The head of the city said that he would give him his own workshop and an elf wife, and that it was much better than working for low wages in a factory. Klen said that she didn't think that the former elite mage would complain. The guy asked her to shut up. He threw it off his shoulders and replied that, in fact, he was already halfway to freedom from that hell. Klen mocked, saying that he really achieved this by flirting with the director of the factory and was already close to going to the Forbidden World together. The hero screamed, cursing at her. Raja asked Klen to forgive her because she did not do it on purpose. Raja explained that the head of the city would tell him the details himself and it was not too late to ask something. The hero said that it was nothing. He thought that a short break would be enough and then he would return home. Klen replied that he would not be able to return anymore. The Raja said that from circumstantial evidence alone, it was clear that he was a troublemaker who could not accept his disadvantageous position and so took the most important things and ran away. The hero resigned himself, telling them to take him wherever they wanted. The Raja thanked him. Klen pulled out a bag telling him to climb in. He asked what else it was for. She explained that the entrance to Shambhala was secret. He sent her away saying that he was a guest. He shouted that there should be no bags and no bullying because he was going to their country as a specialist and was not going to get into a bag. Klen reminded that this was a kidnapping, and Raja herself, who had forgotten about it, also remembered. The hero asked what was wrong with them. In any case, he refused. Klen, again taking out the staff, used paralysis magic. He fell and Maple wished him good night. Raja leaned over saying that she had been watching his efforts for a long time and now he could rest at his leisure. The boy liked her sweet scent. In the kingdom of Zweek, few people know about Shambhala. Despite the fact that they are neighbors, no one has even decided to include them on the maps. Even he, a former court magician, did not know about the elves living in the desert. The voices asked him to wake up and asked if he was alive. The hero thought that if he did not wake up, he would be finished. They whispered to him that if he did not wake up, his face would be covered with kisses. The hero felt that if he did not wake up, he would die socially. The girl said that she would count to 3 and began the countdown. The hero opened his eyes. In front of him appeared some kind of gloomy, hissing animal. The hero screamed, not understanding what it was, and the maple tree replied that it was a desert long-tailed rat. She asked if he was really afraid that she would bite him. What a shame. He mentally cursed the girl and asked where they were. The girl replied that they were in Shambhala, in the house of the city mayor. 2 people were just walking towards them. Klen turned around and told the gentleman that Julius had woken up. The man thanked Klen and said how good it was that he was safe. He bowed and greeted the hero in Shambhala. The man introduced himself as Shamshil, the city mayor. He smiled and said that he hoped the hero enjoyed the journey with his beautiful daughters. The hero sarcastically replied that it was definitely a great program, especially the old bag they put on his head. The man apologized for everything that happened. The man looked reproachfully at his daughters, saying that he had warned them. Klen said that everything was fine with Yuli. If you think about it, he was even happy. Maybe a masochist. Yuli shouted that he was not happy. He said that he was just glad that they freed him and he could finally feel his hands. The man said that was good. Shamshil decided to get straight to the point. Many girls entered the room. The hero did not understand what this meant. The man brought to him wise and beautiful daughters from their people to please his desires. The boy was surprised. The man asked whom Julius would choose from them. Seeing the hero's surprise, the man asked if he hadn't been told. The hero didn't know it was serious. Ken said she had told him about it and that Julius was just delirious. Shamshil said that they wanted him to make full use of his skills in their country, and in return they would give them a good reward, a great life, his own alchemical workshop, and a wife who would love him. He asked the hero to choose a girl to his taste. Julius asked how he could talk about it with such a face. The man asked what the hero really was against. Did Noseweek have servants? The hero replied that only the nobility had servants, and the hero was a commoner. Shamshil did not understand what to do then. She, one of the elves, was embarrassed, looking at Yuli. The girl was embarrassed because he looked at her. The hero was surprised that they really wanted to marry a man. The hero got out of bed sighing and saying that nothing could be done. The girls tensed up. The hero bowed and apologized to the mayor, saying that he was not an alchemist, but a court magician. Julius said that it was true. Despite what his daughters said, he had never created a potion, so he was afraid that he would not be able to help them. The man asked to raise his head and said that he had indeed been told about it. The man understood Julius's doubts, but his daughters had never let him down. The hero said that the man seemed to have great faith in them, and he replied that he was truly proud of these two. Raja said that Julius could make an even better potion, and Klen added that they stole the materials for it, so everything was fine. The man asked the hero to stay. Shamshil said that the truth is that a new giant labyrinth was discovered under Shambhala. The hero was stunned to learn about the new giant labyrinth complex, because if it was true, then they were lucky to find a giant gold mine. The hero said that on the contrary, it could even topple the Zweik kingdom, which has a monopoly on the labyrinth business. The man asked if Mr. Julius understood everything. The hero said that if it was true, they had to be very careful. Klen didn't understand what they had to be careful about. The hero said that 3 years ago, Zweik had fought with his neighbors over the riches of the labyrinth. He added that if they screwed up, the whole world would turn against them. The man replied that this was true, and that was why he had a request for the hero. Shamshil needed the hero to prepare a potion made in Shambhala. The labyrinth is difficult to conquer. Potions are needed to obtain the treasures that lie in the depths of the labyrinth, but sacrifices are of no benefit to anyone. Fortunately, the labyrinth also has ingredients for potions, so the cycle of creating potions and conquering the labyrinth will continue to bring riches. But time does not stand still. If the military from Zweik learns that there is a labyrinth in these lands, they will not remain silent. Shambhala will find itself in the center of the conflict. That's why the leader wants to put everything in order before the fight starts. If the cycle of make use happens, the country can be protected. The leader said he knew it was disrespectful to his magical craft, but he asked. Shamshil begged the hero to become an alchemist who would save Shambhala. The hero stuttered, talking about himself and alchemy. Raja, grabbing the hero by the hand, begged him to help them because they needed his help. Maple grabbed his other hand, also asking for help, and he would help them because they chose him. All the elves in the room began to beg him at once to give them a chance. The hero had no doubt that the labyrinth fever would come to this country and that it would be a time of great change, but if they failed, then there would be trouble. The hero did not understand if they really wanted to entrust the future to a man who had never made a single potion. Shamshil said that in his eyes, the hero is a genius with extremely high magical abilities and is smart enough to instantly assess the situation and act wisely. The hero not only calls himself a wizard, but also has a kind heart, and the chief has heard that he is sincere in his work. The chief said that the main thing is what his daughters told him. The hero must know that there are things more important than momentary wealth. The hero wondered what kind of stupidity it was that a bunch of weirdos kidnapped him. The hero realized that they understood him better than he understood them. He shouted that they themselves had started to put pressure on him, and that they should not complain if nothing worked out. But the elves were already sure that he would cope. The hero shouted that he didn't care that he was not an alchemist, but he would do what they wanted. Pointing his finger at himself, he shouted that he was super elite, and a joyful cry was heard all around. He turned to the chief saying that he did not need a wife, but the old man would not accept refusal under any circumstances. Shamshil said that he would take them anyway. In any case, he would need an assistant. The hero was angered by this, and out of spite he said that he wanted to take those 2 girls, the headman's daughters. They were shocked, not understanding what this meant. The leader asked if the hero really wanted his daughters, and he asked if it was a problem, and if so, that was why he didn't want to get a wife. The hero was sure that this would make the streaker give up on his plan, but he immediately agreed. Klen couldn't believe that he chose them. The hero was amazed that both sisters agreed and mentally asked if they had gone crazy. Shamshil laughingly said that he would not accept a refusal at such a late stage because the hero had already proposed to his daughters, so it was no longer up for discussion. The hero shouted that this was absurd. It was important to the leader that Julius also demonstrated his determination to them. The leader asked everyone present if they had heard this, and they immediately answered that they had. The hero mentally asked himself what kind of parent he was. The hero shouted at the girls whether it was okay for them to marry a man. but the girls were no longer listening. Raja couldn't believe that he proposed to her, and Klen talked about how excited she was. Raja asked if that meant they were already married, and Klen called him a child lover. The guy mentally screamed, why didn't they just tell him no? Julius, giving in, told the chief that they would talk about it later and asked what was going on with the work. Shanshil called his daughters, saying that from now on they would help him, and they asked him to provide it to them. The sisters said they would be happy to work with him, and Maple once again took the opportunity to call the hero a bad name. He didn't know what to do. The girls showed him their country from above, saying that it was the trading state of Shambhala. Shambhala is located in the center of the desert, and its cities are scattered throughout the oases. Therefore, it prospers thanks to free trade throughout the desert. Soon, a new branch of industry will appear, the Labyrinth Complex. The hero was surprised by the view in front of him, because he had never seen the horizon before. The chief asked for forgiveness and asked if the hero could wait until evening before going to the workshop. The hero asked why. Shamshil felt awkward saying this, but they had just discovered that some details had been overlooked during the repair work. The hero was not against looking around the city. They whispered something in Raja's ear, and she screamed that the repair shop was in very bad condition and that it was impossible to go there now. There wasn't even a roof. The hero asked if it was really in such disrepair. An elf appeared in front of him, who, bowing, introduced himself as Slay and said that he was his secretary. He suggested that Julius go and conduct an inspection check of Shambhala, and he agreed. Smiling, the hero asked if he could take advantage of the opportunity to escape, and the chief laughed and replied that it was a problem. The chief ordered Maple to show the hero the city. The hero asked what about her sister, but she would take care of the workshop. Raja asked Klen not to embarrass the hero too much, and she only replied that she would take care of it. The hero was already scared. Shamshil said that the wedding ceremony had not even begun yet, so he did not have to worry. Yuli only called the old man a name, telling him to shut up. Coming out of the shadow, the hero instantly screamed about the heat. Turning around, he asked what kind of sun it was, and the maple tree answered that it was Shambhala. The girl said that it was because of the heat that she was dressed like that, and the hero was all in black. The hero justified himself by saying that Zwick is a cold country. As they walked through the city, Klen advised him not to undress, as the sun was at its strongest and it was hard to get used to. Julius said they lived in a wonderful place and asked how they managed. Klen said that desert elves tolerated the heat well and the secret was in their dark skin. She added that he would get used to it after a while. He asked if it was true. The girl said that it was cool in the desert at night. The hero did not think that there would be even a small amount of coolness in this place. Maple asked him about buying some clothes, and the guy agreed since he would be burned to the ground before he became an alchemist. The girl suggested going to the main market because there was a good shop there. She asked if the sun hurt him. He shouted that it hurt, and she could see it herself. The girl teasingly asked how much longer he could hold out and said he was about to break. The guy told her to shut up and asked when he would change his clothes. Klen asked if he wanted to escape from the market, and Julius answered that it was not so because he would die immediately. The girl laughed and answered that Julius was a very funny person after all, to which the guy asked her to keep quiet. They got to the main market. The hero asked if there were always so many people there. She said that when the caravan returns there are more people. She asked him if he liked it. He answered that it looked acceptable. He understood that it was a trading city. The girl said that when he spoke like that, she felt good. The guy said he felt like a tourist, but it turned out that Klen was, so it seemed, in Zwick. She said that now they were in the largest oasis of Shambhala right in the heart of the country. Julius asked if the mayor of the city wasn't the king. She said that would be great, but no. The guy asked if that meant they had a republic, but the girl didn't know the details, because children didn't need to know that. The guy was hooked by his words about children. The girl asked Yuli how old he was, and he answered that he was 23 and also asked about her age. The girl answered that although it was impolite to ask, she thought she was 18. The guy was very surprised because he thought she was around 14 years old. The girl didn't understand what kind of nonsense this was, because he proposed to her himself, so Julius really is bad. The guy said it was a lie. He just asked to accompany him to the clothing store, otherwise he would die. The girl said that she was a good wife and was able to save her husband's life. The guy said that she was up to her old tricks again. The merchant, seeing Julius, asked if he was a man and inquired where he came from. Julius said that he was from the kingdom of Zwick. The merchant knew this country of potions and labyrinths and told the hero that he had come a long way. He threw him a fruit and said that it was a gift, and from now on the hero would be his favorite customer. The hero agreed and promised to come again. The The hero did not understand what kind of fruit it was, and the maple tree told him that it was a momo fruit and that it usually had to be eaten right away. After taking a bite, the hero thought that it was sweeter and softer than an apple. The guy handed Clen a fruit, asking if she wanted it. If not, then no big deal, but the deuce said she would take it. The guy noticed a strange cat off to the side, and she asked what it was. When the hero called the creature a cat, he cried out saying that she was not an ordinary cat, but a human cat. The guy wanted to pet him. He said he had never seen a big cat talk. The cat, releasing her claws, asked if he wanted to fight. The guy apologized and asked not to be offended, and as an apology decided to buy something from her. He asked if they used coins and zweek and handed her a silver one. The cat forgave him for today. As a farewell, she said that she would brag about having met a strange man from Zweek. Seeing that Maple had not eaten the fruit, the guy thought that she did not like it, but she replied that this was not so. He said that one should enjoy eating, and if she did not like it, he offered to exchange it for meat. The girl replied that it was not worth it and thanked him. The guy did not understand her strange reaction. After taking a bite of the shashlik, he said it was very tasty. Clen said that the restaurant was quite famous for its desert boa with sweet and spicy sauce. The desert boa is a short monster with a poisonous needle in its tail. Its meat is tasty and inexpensive. Yuli said that he had never seen cat people and asked if there were many people in this country. Ken said that about 80% were elves and 20% were beast people, and people rarely visited this place. She clarified that she did not know much about it. Then the guy asked if other elves also lived in the desert. The girl, shyly, said that here it is considered a sign of courtship when a man gives a girl food that he is going to eat. The guy screamed in surprise and apologized, saying he didn't know. The girl laughed, saying she lied. He called her a brat. Finally, they found themselves in the right store. As the guy expected, it was quite exotic inside. They were met by a dressmaker named Amina. She greeted the boys and asked what she could offer them today. Clen said who they needed clothes for. Looking at the hero, the elf asked what kind of clothes this was for a kamikaze and told him to take off his coat indoors. Amina started looking for something, saying that a man should wear a toga and a cloak. The hero looked, and noticing this, Clen said that elves do not wear trousers. The boy screamed, asking if she was serious. The girl grinned, asking if he didn't believe her. He asked if she thought it was funny to laugh at foreigners, and she said it was. Finally finding clothes, Yuli began to try on everything. The dressmaker said that she had always dreamed of trying to change a person's clothes and thanked him for the visit. She planned to make a lot of money, so she needed to try on a lot. When the guy tried on a large number of clothes, he asked if it was enough. But Clen and the dressmaker thought that everything didn't fit. He sighed, saying that all his clothes were the same, and it seemed to him that he had already tried on everything. Seeing one outfit, he told the Maple to look at it. He saw that it cost 20 gold and asked if it would suit him. The girl called out to him. Clen asked Amina about this outfit. She said that it was beautiful, and the guy only just realized that its cost was really 20 gold coins. In different countries, coins are different, and the basic coinage in all countries is this. A gold coin is equal to 10 large silver coins. A large gold coin equals 10 gold coins, a large silver coin equals 10 large silver coins, an ordinary silver coin equals 10 copper large coins. There was also a noble banknote equal to 1 large gold coin. A factory worker's monthly salary is 10 gold coins and 5 large silver coins. According to the mayor, the coins are about the same value. Clen said not to worry about it because the mayor will pay for everything. Julius said that he would prefer something more modest, but Clen disagreed, since clothes betray a worldly nature. The guy agreed, but still thought that the outfit stood out and even had a gold thread. The girl thought that it was better than being underestimated. The guy agreed with that, but 20 gold coins was 2 months' salary. The dressmaker said he could just try it on for free for now. When he was leaving for the locker room, she shouted at him that if he got it dirty, he would have to buy it back. After changing, he asked how it looked, and the girls did not expect that he would look so good in it. The guy was quite comfortable in it. Amina said that even 20 gold would be a good deal because this fabric, carefully woven from gold threads, dyed with rare materials, is a real masterpiece. Amina sewed this for a rich merchant from one country, but he fell on hard times and was unable to buy it back. Clen agreed that he looked good, and Julius asked how many times she would repeat it. The girl replied that it was because he looked like a prince from a fairy tale. He asked if she was telling the truth, and she repeated that she was. Amina also said that it suited him very well and called the hero a dear prince. But he understood that she was saying this only because she wanted them to buy him. Klen was sure that Julia was tired of working at Zweig, so this was a good start, and the guy agreed with her. Being a court magician was all well and good, but all he did was dirty and thankless work. Maple asked if he would throw off his coat, but the boy decided to keep it. He would start a new life in this country, and from now on he would live with dignity. He asked if they needed anything else, and the girl said that they needed a change of clothes and a nightgown. Labyrinths are populated by various monsters. As a rule, the strength of monsters and the treasures that fall from them increase as you progress through the levels. But do not underestimate the labyrinths. As is known, greed spares no one. No treasure is worth more than a person's life. When they went further, the hero asked what kind of place it was, and Klen told them that they were now in the slums of Shambhala. The guy decided to clarify whether this place was safe. The girl, smirking, replied that it was very dangerous. He irritably cried out that she shouldn't take guests to such places. She replied that he shouldn't get excited because the most he would get would be hit on the head. He, angry, said that it sounded as if it really was so. Klen said that she often visits this place, so everything will be fine. He asked if it was true. She was sure that on the excursion you need to see such things. Although they have rich places, there are also slums. The guy suggested that there was a recession in their country, and the girl confirmed this. Not everyone has a job, she could say that for sure. She said that the poor criminals and thieves were trying to do anything to survive. The population lacked methods of earning money, and the gap between rich and poor was becoming wider. There was also a shortage of farmers in the desert. The boy thought that sounded very serious. Maple said that if they mastered the labyrinth, there would be more work. The girl was sure that this would help everyone, and the guy agreed with her. He asked her if there were any other labyrinths anywhere, and she said that there were several in the desert and the nearest one was a half-hour camel ride away. The guy offered to take him there because he wanted to see what it was like. As they drove, the guy thought that he had underestimated the desert. The piercing sun and the dust from the heat are relentless. It is a much harsher environment than he imagined. Finally, they reached the place, and the boy saw the entrance. It was the first labyrinth of Shambhala. Klen was called from the side, and she saw Tia. Tia was an adventurer. Julius and Maple both thought about how fluffy Tia was. The adventurer asked if they would all go into the maze together, but Maple replied that they would not go inside and that it was just an inspection tour. The hero examined the blade, saying that they were just examining the place and nothing serious. He asked if he could take this dagger. Tia said that there would be strong enemies there and asked if they were sure, and the girl answered that everything was fine, but Julius had already grabbed Klen and said that together they would succeed. Klen screamed in surprise when he started dragging her to the entrance. Tia waved at them, thinking that they couldn't handle it together, and said that she would wait for them there, and if something went wrong, they needed to come back right away. While examining the labyrinth, the hero said that it was similar to the one in the Kingdom of Zweig. Klen said that the dungeon looked strange and there was not even sunlight, but at least everything was visible. She looked back, wondering if they would really go further. The guy replied that of course they would go if they didn't fight, they wouldn't pass inspection. The girl countered by saying that her magic wasn't very good for killing, so it was basically useless. The only attack she had was an ice bullet. The guy reminded her that when they met she immediately used paralysis magic on him, and she replied that it was different. He stroked her head, saying that she made him tremble with fear, so she should be confident in herself. He told her to be behind him, he would be the vanguard. He said that he shouldn't be underestimated because he served in the army for 3 years. It would be an easy fight, and when they returned, they would tell her sister about his heroism. The girl said that if he thought he was their husband, he was wrong, but she didn't finish because he started to leave. A passage appeared ahead, and looking into it, the hero counted 8 goblins. Goblins are low-ranking monsters that move in packs and specialize in group attacks. The hero said he would go behind them, and Klen said to take care of those in front. This was unexpected for the girl. The hero disappeared into the portal and later appeared, jumping out of it from above. He flew towards the sitting goblins, swinging his blade. One of the goblins sensed him and began to attack, but the hero dodged, hiding in the portal and teasing him. Finding himself behind one of them, he cut off the monster's head. Maple and the goblin looked at each other in surprise. Grabbing the staff, the girl finally used ice bullet magic, killing the monster. The guy was surprised by the percentage of the drop and the size of the crystals. The girl, seeing the object in his hand, asked what it was. The guy asked if she really didn't know, and she screamed that of course she knew. She specified that she had simply never seen anyone who could fight so easily. It was very difficult to do. The guy said that everyone in Zweig did this. The girl read that they were some kind of fighting people and this could not be. but the guy brazenly replied that he could. Klen began to beat him indignantly. The guy said that this is his peculiarity, at least his magic can be combative. He recalled that his master was also angry at him, telling him not to use his strategic magic thoughtlessly, otherwise if it failed he would be sent to the past or future. But the hero thought she was useful, he didn't like the way she sucked him in. Maple thought he was crazy. The hero said he was getting better now and that they would speed up. The girl was shocked that they would go down further because she thought it was a one-time action. Noticing a desert boa, the hero was delighted and told the monster to come to him because he would cut him. Having impaled one monster on his sword, he asked what kind of creature it was, and Maple said it was a scorpion. Having defeated one monster, he only later learned that it was a sand lizard. The girl asked Yuli if he was having fun, and he replied that he was very happy and showed her his tail. He said he'd never seen all these monsters before, so isn't it fun? The girl replied that it was not fun and that he was acting like a maniac. The guy was not happy with the answer. She added that he took the dungeons that everyone else had tried so hard to conquer for fun. He patted her head saying that he was very sorry. She asked what the dungeons in Zwick were like, and he said that they were full of rats and wolves, or more precisely, thieving rats and snow wolves, and there were also a lot of people there. He said that in the upper dungeons they hunted in droves, so there were no treasures there anymore, so they had to go down to the lower levels. But the lower you go, the stronger the monsters become. Most of them were killed right away. You can't dive into the dungeon lightly. The girl didn't find it funny at all. Yuli asked if there was an adventurers guild in Shambhala, and it turned out that they had yet to create it. The guy asked if they hadn't had problems without it, and the girl explained that the army and border guards hunted the desert monsters. She said that workers are used to perform routine work and guilds are not needed. There are few adventurers in Shambhala and there is not much to earn there. The guy told her not to worry because he thinks that dawn awaits them. There are many labyrinths inside. How can this be unprofitable? There was a huge door in front of them, and the guy didn't know what it was. On the door, he saw a sign that looked like a stop sign. The girl screamed that they didn't need to go any further, and the guy was surprised that they had gone so far. Klen insisted that they couldn't go any further, but the boy didn't understand why. She explained that there was a very strong boss there and they had already suffered losses, so they had to wait until they made the potion. The guy smirked as he talked about how much work he had, and then suggested doing a quick check. The girl screamed in surprise, asking why he needed it. She tried to stop him, asking him to wait because she really couldn't go there. Her sister would be furious. The guy told her not to worry because the Raja wouldn't know until they told her. He couldn't stop rejoicing while she begged him not to go. Quinn said that he couldn't disobey her and still asked him to wait, but the guy insisted, wanting to take a peek. In the end, he managed to open the door. Inside was a chimera, a monster with the head of a lion and a goat, with eagle wings and a snake's tail. The monster growled, rushing at them. The guy was simply delighted because he expected something like this. The girl behind was frightened, saying that her sister would definitely kill her. The guy dodged the blow, shouting that it was the boss of the floor and, of course, he was huge. Klen panicked, telling Yuli that they couldn't handle it. The guy turned around, saying that he had weakened him and told the girl to go for it. The monster struck again, but Julius dodged, ending up to the side of it. The snake-shaped tail aimed towards the hero, and he opened a portal. Jumping out on the other side, he began to cast a spell. Once he was in front of the boss's face, he used Fireball and was shocked when he realized that it didn't work. The boy screamed, calling Klen, and she used a spell of deadly poison and paralysis. The monster's magic resistance, muscle strength, defense, and agility instantly began to decrease. The guy standing to the side also attacked him. Suddenly, the monster's face appeared from the smoke, and Julius grinned. There was a floor-breaking blow. The girl screamed, calling out to him, and he replied that everything was fine. He managed to fly up before the blow and said that they were almost done. Landing on the chimera's lion head, the hero pierced it with a blade and caused an explosion spell. The monster's head began to sparkle from the inside, spreading throughout its entire body. The monster was defeated and his body fell. The hero, landing on the ground, finally exhaled, saying that he was tired. The girl was surprised at how strong he was. The guy looked at the broken blade and said that the monster was pretty strong and swords were fragile. The girl threw herself on his neck, saying that he had succeeded. The girl couldn't believe that he had defeated the boss and praised him, saying how strong he was. The guy, embarrassed, said that it was understandable because he was an elite mage. The hero's whole body ached, and he said that he thought they could go home already, and the girl agreed with him. But suddenly they noticed a treasure chest on the side, which drops from the boss on the second level. Looking inside, they were both surprised, not understanding what it was. A guy and a girl are looking at a fancy palace, and the girl says that it was all built with the city's money and that the old man knows his business. The guy admires the building. The girl explains that it was originally an old temple, but they planted different flowers. The hero says contentedly that he likes it here very much. A squirrel flies onto the girl's hand, and someone greets the heroes in a friendly manner at home. A beautiful elf in a black dress reproaches them for walking for too long. The guy is embarrassed and mumbles that it is night now. The girl who came with him mockingly says that he is staring. The guy vehemently denies it. He tries to justify himself. The elf in the black dress is very embarrassed and asks if it suits her. Yuli compliments her that everything looks good. Everyone is very embarrassed. The guy says that he needs to go to the workshop and asks to show him everything. The elf in black offers to help. They go deeper into the palace and, looking at the entrance with the pedestal, the guy suggests that they tried to imitate a potion factory. The elf confirms this and says that they would like to know his opinion later. The elf says contentedly that she knew they had made the right choice. He sheepishly says that anyone could have done it, but he would not let them down. The other girl notes the glint in his eyes. He squats down and notes that it will be difficult to compare with the original, but the production is excellent. The elf happily asks again. Julius says he'll need a wand and some materials to do his job. She exclaims that she'll send them as soon as she can. The other notes that they can now begin attacking the labyrinth. The guy replies that he dealt with the chimera in the first one. The elf in black is surprised. Her sister, folding her arms across her chest, confidently replies that she can say no thanks. The guy behind her reminds her that she was nervous all the time. The girl who was with Julius shows that the chimera dropped a golden topaz, a colorless horrend, and a blue-black obsidian. The other elf admires them. She notes that such a combination seems like a coincidence. Julius casually asks about the construction of the residence. The girl in the dress is embarrassed by this question. She invites him into the room. The guy, in turn, asks why she is nervous about this question. Another elf hints to him that he too will be disturbed by this question. He tells her to be quiet. The girl shows him the rooms, the living room, and the dining room. The guy thinks it's pretty nice there. He notices the things and asks why they brought them. The elf in the dress replies that they are all theirs and adds that they had no choice. The other one says that the stuffed rabbit is hers. The elf in the dress says sheepishly that he chose them. The other notes that he will get used to marriage. The guy realizes that he has completely forgotten about this problem. He asks what's upstairs. They answer that their common room is upstairs. The guy has a bad feeling. He runs upstairs, enters the room, and asks what it is. There is a large canopy bed. The room itself is very spacious. The elves stand shyly next to him. He asks skeptically why the room looks like a brothel. Julius reproachfully asks the elf whether she did it on the orders of the chief or on her own. She says she had nothing to do with it. They assume that it was the old man's idea after all. The girl also repeats some words about taking control of the guy. The guy asks why she says that, and her sister remarks that she smells good. She notes that the girl in the black dress is all perfumed and shining, looking dressed up. She is embarrassed and tries to explain. She remembers the dark-haired elf saying that she could influence whether Julius would fall in love with her or not. The other elves also rush to help her in this matter and give advice. Yuli realized that the problem was the secretary. Another elf noted that the girl was nice when she was angry. The guy says that the girl can go home because he doesn't need anything like that. Another elf says that according to the law of Shambhala, married couples sleep together. The heroes disagree with her. The guy remembers their conversation with the old man, apologizes to the girls, and says that he was just teasing him. Julius suggests that they go home quietly, because he definitely won't run away. They confidently tell him that the mayor's orders are absolute for them and they cannot return. One of the girls tries to persuade him. The other is amazed by her bold proposals, but the guy does not give up his position. She asks him uncomfortable questions and he tries to deny everything. The elf assures that Julius does a lot for Shambhala and they should reward him for his work. The other agrees with her. The guy does not understand the logic. They stick to him from both sides, and one says that they personally changed the guy's life, so they should take responsibility. The other agrees with her and gives a sign to attack him in a way. They end up in a lying position on the bed. The girl is lying on top of Julia. At this awkward moment, the mayor of the city enters the room with the announcement that they have prepared a special banquet for the guy. The heroes scream in surprise. The old man clears his throat and asks for forgiveness. After that, he leaves, and, addressing one of the elves as Klen, says that he leaves the rest to her. He makes a not very decent assumption, which outrages the boy and the girl. From this begins the hectic life in Shambhala. In the kingdom of Zweik, a thunderstorm rages and lightning flashes. A bald man named Heinrich sits in his office and cannot believe the information he has received. He thinks that even though His Majesty put him in charge of the potion factory and he is one of the greatest nobles in all of Zweik, he still can't reach the quota for the next month. This thought makes the man very angry. It was because of Julius that Henry found himself in such a difficult situation. The man analyzes that 2 orbs were stolen and 2 production lines were stopped, and the guy also stole secret documents. Heinrich considers this a real betrayal. At the same time, he understood that he could not report this anywhere, because then he would be held accountable for his leadership. The man cannot allow this information to reach His Majesty. He gets very angry, slams his fist on the table, and curses at Julius. At this moment, the butler brings him a letter into the study, and Henry pretends that none of this happened. The servant says that a letter has been received from the royal palace. The letter said that production needed to be doubled. The man looked at it in shock, and nervously said that they couldn't increase production without losing efficiency. Henry does not understand how they can increase orders under such circumstances. The servant suggests that they need more product because of the war with neighboring countries. The man throws a jug in his direction in anger, which breaks against the wall. The butler suggests telling the truth. The man understands that it will not end well. He orders to add 30% to the potion and increase production, that is, to drive, as he puts it, the 4 eyes to the fullest. The servant notes that there have been complaints from high-ranking alchemists. Heinrich reproachfully says that Julius did all this work himself, so they should cope too. The butler thinks that this decision is a complete failure, and the man shouts at him not to condemn the orders of his superiors. Heinrich pours himself a glass of alcohol and reassures himself that they will still buy their potions. He is sure that as long as there are labyrinths and wars, the business will continue, because there is simply no other mass production factory like this one. Julius meets a long-haired guy in a white jumpsuit named Marius, who has a cigarette in his mouth. He asks him if the hero is going to war again. The guy is very surprised to see him. Longhair says that if he decided to stop being a mage, then he is finished. The guy, smiling, replies that he has had enough of this. Marius points at him and asks what he has become. Julius says contentedly that he has become an alchemist. The guy suddenly opens his eyes and realizes that it was all a dream. The sun is just beginning to rise on the horizon. Yuli goes out onto the balcony and looks into the distance, at the sea. The guy stretches and thinks that he drank too much yesterday. He remembers with displeasure how the mayor kept pouring him alcohol and does not understand why old people want young people to drink a lot. The guy also thinks about sleep. He remembers Marius, his master, and hopes that the boys are okay. At that moment, he sees one of the elven sisters, naked, entering the water. She doesn't notice him, and the guy is very embarrassed by the sight. Julius blushes up to his ears. The hero does not understand what she is doing here, being naked. The elf at this time goes further and further into the water. The guy comes down closer and hides behind a bush. He, all red, watches her from his hiding place and justifies himself that he didn't do it on purpose and that she herself came up with the idea of swimming here. The elf says to herself that the water in Zweik was too cold, but here it's just right. A sobering thought comes to the guy's mind that peeping like this is wrong. Maple suddenly appears next to him and asks the boy if he likes her. He gets scared and wonders how long she has been here. The elf says that since he hid. The boy nervously thinks that the worst of the sisters found him. She says she understands Julius's feelings. The girl comments on her sister's beauty, and the boy reproaches her for speaking like a mayor. The elf asks if her sister is the most beautiful in the world, and the boy is embarrassed, unable to find an answer. Klen understands everything anyway. She asks with interest if her sister will be happy if she hears this. Julius, on his knees, begs her not to tell her anything. Maple thinks she'll like this information. The guy says that even in this case he'll be very awkward. She laughs at his embarrassment and he waves the girl off. The elf asks the hero again if her sister was beautiful. He, overcoming his embarrassment, agrees and compares her to a goddess. After his answer, Maple's eyes sparkle and she says that this answer is absolutely correct. The elf tells that her sister takes a bath at the same time every day. She talks too enthusiastically about her love for her sister and the embarrassed guy begins to doubt her normality. Maple suggests taking another look. Julius claims that he won't do it again, and she calls him boring. Julius and two sisters are filling the pool with water from a large barrel. The boy looked a little embarrassedly at the girl who was helping him pour. She wipes the sweat from her forehead and notices his gaze. The elf asks him what's wrong. The guy, still not recovered from the morning's incident, turns away and says that it's nothing. Yuli tells himself to calm down and focus on the task at hand. Klen points out that her sister is too beautiful for that to be possible. He waves her off. The elf doesn't understand. The boy looks at the pool and thinks that this is enough. He lists the ingredients for the recovery potion, such as oasis water, goblin magic stone, herbs, aloe, and date palm seeds. He asks the girls to put all the magic stones in the pool. They obediently do so. After that, he pours magic into it with the staff. The water starts bubbling. Klen is amazed at the softness of the water, and the other elf says that she would gladly take such a bath, but she is already bathed. He remembers the morning and sheepishly tells them that they are distracting him, for which they apologize. The girls fall silent until the guy turns around and says that the basic potion is ready. The elf asks him what now. The hero explains that some other things need to be added, but he has never done that, because that is the job of alchemists. She asks if everything will be okay. He replies that he has a recipe that they stole. Moreover, Julius is confident that if alchemists can do it, then he can too. The guy muses that the recovery potions are made of herbs and aloe, but he will also add dates for flavor, instead of the apples that were put in Zweig. They add the remaining ingredients to the potion. The girls say it looks delicious and smells sweet. Julius suggests finishing it all and mixing it with magic. Maple wishes him luck and tells him not to worry, because he was the most skilled in the factory. The guy starts to stir the potion, and feels that the staff is much thicker than he thought, and it becomes heavier for him. He apologizes to the girls because he could have made a mistake. The girls ask if everything is okay and note that it smells great. The guy says that everything will be ready now. They had a whole pool of candy. The elves looked at them in surprise, and the guy looked skeptical. They remark with delight that it is like a fairy tale and rejoice. The guy, in turn, takes one of the candies in his hand and examines it. He is not sure that they should look so jelly. Klen eats the candy right from his hand. Yuli reproachfully says that she can't just eat it because she might get sick. She chews it and says that it's delicious and like a smooth, tender, sweet, and sour fruit. Another girl wonders if it's really that tasty. The guy tries to stop them from eating the candy because they can't be 100% sure. The elf, not listening to him, also eats the product and likes it. Klen praises Yuli for creating a new delicacy and calls him a genius. The guy asks if it really tastes that good. The girl offers to try it, but he refuses, saying that they need to test it first. The elves begin to forgive again. The guy gets the idea that they have lost their minds. At that moment, they hear a noise, and the mayor enters the room saying that they have an emergency and asking if they have any potions. His servant holds a beaten cat on his back. The heroes anxiously recognize it as Tia. The cat lies in a bag on her back with her eyes closed. The heroes see Tia's pitiful state. They lay her down on the couch and are amazed at how severe her wounds are, having been received in the dungeon due to the attack of a level 5 ogre. The other cats, crying, beg Julius to help her because they heard that potions are the best cure for wounds inflicted by monsters. The boy sadly assumes that with such a serious wound, the potion will not help. The elf rushes to him and says that they should try. She calls Klen and she goes to the pool with candies. Julia is asked what it is, and he answers that it is a restorative potion that did not go as planned. Maple brings one of the candies, and the other elf says it's okay. They both say they felt themselves getting stronger. The guy isn't sure he should give something so questionable to a patient. The elf objects to him and shouts that he will never know unless he tries. Maple first puts the candy in his mouth. The guy doesn't understand why, and the mayor explains that the desert girls have strong roots. She gives the cat the candy, and in the blink of an eye she transforms and becomes fluffy. Tia opens her eyes and sits up on the couch, healthy, amazed that everything has healed. The others are no less amazed. Everyone shouts joyfully that it is a miracle. They say that it is magnificent, and that the restorative effect is strong. Holding the candy in his hands, the guy thinks that it is even too strong, even better than usual. The mayor mentions the elixir, catching the boy's attention. The old man adds that this is a legendary elixir from ancient texts that can restore vitality and heal any injury. The mayor thought it was all a fairy tale. The girls do not understand what he is talking about. The old man says that with him they can resist the potions from Zweig, and also that they need to found a guild as soon as possible. The elves note that they have a lot to do and there will be more. Just as Julius wants to say something, the mayor asks him to set up mass production of the elixir. The old man adds that the guy should do it at any cost, but he seriously says that he has to refuse. Everyone looks at him tensely. Julius shows the candy, saying that it is a complete failure and that he, as mayor, should understand this. The old man sighs and agrees. A boy sits at a table, reading books. Maple sits next to him. Another elf comes to them with a plate of fruit. The guy thinks that he tried to make elixirs many times after that, but failed. Julius does not understand the reason. He suggested that he misunderstood the basics of alchemy and could study it in Zweig's library, but it would be difficult to implement. Maple asks why he wants to get the potion. Candy is good too. The other elf agrees with her. The guy explains that if they use the candy in Shambhala, there will be no problems. The adventurers will become stronger. But he also adds that they are not for sale because they are very effective and can cure a very sick person in an instant. The guy wonders how much they will cost in that case. Clen, already sitting on his shoulders, asks again. He notes that they simply won't earn anything. Another elf remarks that this is a lot of money, more than 100 large gold coins. Throwing a candy to Maple, the boy replies that it is too expensive for adventurers, and there is no point in them if they cannot buy them. Clen asks if it is possible to do the same as with potions. The guy notes that in that case, it would be too cheap. He suggests that the elixir could be sold to other countries. Julius thinks that the elixir is too valuable, because it can be used to create an immortal army. The guy adds that this legendary elixir is capable of destroying the world and it is dangerous not only for Shambhala, but for the whole world. The elf allows this chilling story to be accepted. Julius reasons that they need a potion slightly better than the one in Zweig, and in large enough quantities to start a war on the market. He comes to the conclusion that they can't resolve any of these issues at the moment and says that it would be great if the power of the elixir could be shared. The elf supports the guy by praising him for creating the legendary candy and calls him the best. Julius says contentedly that it is because he is an elite. Clen asks if Julius can solve this problem. He says he is working on it. The elf says that she will need to go help the mayor of the city. Maple notes with concern that he does not want him to collapse from fatigue. He assures them that it is not a problem, he is just very bored. The girls believe him and are about to leave, but then one of them approaches the guy. Maple kisses the boy on the cheek and tells him to be a good boy. He shouts indignantly after her as she runs away. The guy understands that they cannot do without these potions. He thinks again about the possibility of sharing the power of the elixir. A boy reaches for an orange slice on a fruit plate. The slices cling to each other like an accordion. He continues to ponder the matter. Two cats thank Julius for helping their sister. The guy asks how she is doing. They answer that she is fine, but is resting today. One of the cats adds that she mumbles the name Julia and smiles strangely. The hero has a bad feeling about this. Yuli packs the box for the journey and asks if anyone is hurt, because he needs to try out several potions. They answer that there are many of them in the dungeon and thank the guy. Julius gives them a vessel with a potion and tells them to give it to the wounded and then leave a review. At that moment, someone comes up to them and asks what the man is doing here. He is a huge humanoid tiger named Marmar who is an adventurer. The cats explain that he is number 2 in the dungeon. The cats reproach him for this attitude, saying that it was Julius who helped their sister. Marmar spreads his paws and says that he does not know him. Tiger mockingly says that his sister couldn't even hold out in the dungeon properly. He shouts that his time has come. The cat tries to reason with him, but he brushes her off and says that he hates people and that just looking at the guy makes him want to kill him. Julius says with a smile that the more wounded, the better. The boy provokes the tiger and it attacks him with a scream. After some time, Julius comes to the mayor. 2 sisters and a dark-haired elf are standing in the office with him. The mayor asks him what's wrong. He places the potion on the table in the office, and the old man looks at the vessel with confusion. Everyone who was in this office paid attention to the flask. The guy smugly apologizes for making them wait and says that this is the very Shambhala potion they asked him for. The elf asks how he did it. Julius replies that it's the other side of the original idea. He shows the candy and explains that if you can't do it, use what you've already done. The guy says he got the idea after she cut the fruit for him. He thought, why not split the candy and reformulate it? Julius says that even potions can be made by adding a thick, undiluted solution to water, so he thought he could do the same with candy. The girls agree that it's a brilliant idea. The guy notes that one candy can make 100 bottles of potion. Everyone is amazed by the quantity. The mayor takes the flask in his hands, and the hero says that they have solved the problem of mass production. He recalls the fight with the tiger and mockingly says that thanks to the goodwill of the test subjects, they have already tested the potion and made sure that everything is working properly. He and the mayor shake hands, and Julius talks about turning the world upside down. The old man agrees. The girls look at their agreement, and Maple says that later this historic day will be called the Dawn of Shambhala. Her sister agrees. Clen comes to a deserted part of the city with shabby houses. She goes into one of them and greets an old man who has one eye covered with a patch. She tells him that she has a job for him. He recognizes her and calls her Mabel. She tells him that they haven't seen each other for a long time and addresses him as Rashid. The man confirms that they haven't met for a long time. The girl thinks that not long ago these slums were her home. She reflects on the many bad things she has done. Rashid points out that she hasn't grown at all, to which she just brushes it off. The girl brags to him that she already has a husband. The man is surprised by this news. He tries to say that she is still a teenager, but the elf confidently states that she is already 18 years old. Rashid can't believe it. She sits up and asks him if she looks like an adult yet. The man agrees with her out loud with doubt, while in his mind he thinks that this is not true at all. She suggests that he become an adventurer, because now that the labyrinth has been excavated, it is time to earn money and it is more profitable than doing bad things. He is skeptical at first, but asks her if she thinks he can handle it. Clen says he can and will be trained. Thoughts creep into the man's head that this is a hassle. The girl asks about the fact that if they do nothing, the guys will start on them. The man says that it is unbearable. The elf notes that adventurers are treated with preferences. He decides to accept her offer and asks if he can talk to people like him. She replies that that would be great. Clen also adds that children can help out when they can. She recalls how her sister gave her a future that a child from the slums does not have. She just wants to give them some life. The man agrees. The elf says that this is what she likes about Rashid. He indignantly declares that this thought does not please him. Rashid also notes that the girl has changed. He remembers her when she first arrived after the draining of Lake Mach. He suggests that she has matured because of her husband. She is not sure of the answer. The man laughs a little at her doubt. But she confidently and admiringly declares that for the sake of Yuli, she is ready to do anything. Rashid says she's fallen in love, and the girl replies that she just wants to annoy him. She says she'd like to tease him a little, but the man is not impressed. The man takes a sip from the bottle and asks her what Julius is doing now. She assumes that he is watching her sister again. Not expecting such an answer, Rashid chokes on his drink. The man scolds her and drives her away, but she is absolutely pleased with herself. Julius stands on the balcony of his house and admits to himself that he has been watching Raja again. He understands that this is wrong, but he is deeply impressed by her beauty. The boy remembers his teacher and mentally tells him that Shambhala is a wonderful place. Raja comes up behind him with a bag of groceries and calls out to him. He flinches in fear. The girl asks what happened. He replies that everything is fine, but notes that something is wrong with her. She denies it. The guy notices her hand, the fingers of which were all bandaged. He takes it in his and asks the reason. She assures him that everything is fine, but he persuades her to use the potion and does not leave her side. The elf tells him not to be so persistent. They get too close, and both of them feel awkward. At this moment, Clen and the mayor look into the room with ingratiating faces. The heroes are scared. Clen says that it was close. The girl and the guy ask what they are doing here. Clen says she saw him flirting with her sister. The mayor says it's normal for a married couple. The guy denies it, and then Raja adds that they really are a couple, but Julius tells her not to complicate things. He asks the mayor what he wanted. He says they have a little problem. The guy asks what happened again. The old man asks him to attend the council meeting in the afternoon. The guy is very surprised by this request, and the girls do not understand why. As they walk to the meeting along the long corridor, the old man explains that he is not the king, but the mayor of the city, and is only responsible for its governance. They enter the hall, and he adds that the council decides on the country's governance. In the hall, two elves are looking at the guy, one with white hair and glasses, and the other with dark hair and a mustache. Hundreds of elves are also watching him from the stands. The sisters also sit down on one of the benches. Julius is confident, but thinks about the problems he had with the warring factions. The mayor introduces him as the potion maker and gives his full name. The boy thinks that the old man told him to just keep quiet. The elf with the mustache says that he heard about him from his people and introduces himself as General Hassam. The white-haired elf introduces himself as Bardiel, the master of the merchant guild. He addresses the boy disrespectfully and looks at him with suspicion. Julia is outraged by this attitude. The elf suggests they get started and notes that everyone here supports the mayor's labyrinth project, but there is a nuance that they don't like. He points at Julius and shouts indignantly that the problem is that he is a man from Zweig. This confuses the guy. Bardiel accuses the boy of being a clever pagan who steals his country's technology and sells it to other countries to gain status and prestige through potion making. He notes that the merchant would not trust such a man. Raja shouts that they stole the technology and the guy had nothing to do with it. Bardiel says that the people from Zweig are not stupid and could have planned all this. The crowd starts to support the elf, suggesting that they want to enslave their girls and complaining about where the mayor is looking. Julius says nothing. White-haired says that it is easy for an alchemist to brew potions, but in fact, he can't do anything. Mabel wants to say something about the elixir, but his sister stops her. The elf turned to them, but the sisters said nothing further, because the elixir was kept secret to avoid unnecessary trouble, so it might seem from the outside that Julius was using the stolen recipe to gain favor. Hassam enters the conversation and, turning to the elf, says that the boy betrayed his homeland to bless their land and healed many wounded. The crowd picks up on this and confirms that Julius is worthy of their trust. The mayor also notes that he is irreplaceable for their country. Bardiel demands proof of the boy's merits, and the old man asks how they can convince him. A white-haired elf with a sly smile offers a reconstruction of Lake Mach. The audience begins to agree with him and the meeting ends. Later, Julius sits on the couch in the mayor's office and exhales tiredly. He is thanked for his hard work. The black-haired elf asks how he feels. The guy replies that it is better than in Zweig. He says he felt like a fish on a cutting board. Klen jokes about it, and he waves it off. The guy understands the look and says contentedly that he will be able to look at Shambhala from the inside. Julius thinks that the structure of the conflict between the executive power and the military merchants led by Bardiel. The problem is that in a country with trade as its basis, Bardiel cannot be ignored. The guy thinks it's good that they at least have a positive attitude towards the potion business. Raja stands there irritated. He asks her if she's angry. The girl confidently confirms that she is. She shouts that he is here by their will, and it was very impolite to call him an ignorant pagan. Klen and Yuli note that she is scary when angry. The elf says that she is not so carefree as to remain silent when her husband is insulted. The guy is embarrassed by this formulation. The girl is also embarrassed. The mayor and Klen are amused by the hero's embarrassment. The boy asks what Lake Mach is. The old man explains that it is a medium-sized lake to the east of Shambhala. He tells of a time when the water in the lake dried up overnight. Raja says they still don't know the reason. Klen notes that many people have had to move to the slums because of it, including her. The mayor puts his hand on her head and adds that at that time he adopted them. The guy says that it is impossible to revive a dead lake, even if he is an elite. Maple turns to him pleadingly. She begs him to return Lake Mach and says that in exchange, he can ask her for anything. Bardiel thinks that the lake dried up overnight and the prosperous city perished, and the elves were so afraid of the curse that now no one comes near this place. As he finishes his meal, he reflects on the fact that the boy agreed to the reconstruction. The elf mockingly thinks that he should have just left, since the man is too stupid to understand sarcasm. He has already studied the man's reputation in Zweig. Bardiel knows about him that the guy is a court magician who fled before the enemy and was sent to the factory and then fled the country. The elf takes a sip of wine and does not understand how Julius can help them. He addresses the mayor as Shamshil and compliments the wine. The old man notes that the boy has something they don't have. Bardiel asks what a man who keeps running away can do. The elf then gets up from the table and says that the conversation is over. He thanks the mayor for inviting him to breakfast and leaves. The old man thinks that Julius has only been here for a few days. He mentally lists his accomplishments, such as conquering dungeons, mass-producing potions, and creating a fantastic elixir. The mayor thinks that Bardiel needs to understand that this is reality. At this time, Julius and his wives were already at the lake. The guy confidently declares that he will not succeed. He complains that something is wrong with this place. Raja says that the place where the ruins are now was noisy, and Klen adds that it is hell in the desert. The guy asks what the big shots say about what happened to the lake. The elf says that they have done a lot of research, but no one has given a definitive answer. Julius suggests that a change in the flow of groundwater could be the cause. Raja points out that the lake cannot dry up overnight. The guy concludes that if the cause were known, they would solve the problem themselves. The guy asks to report everything he saw. Klen turns to Julius. She thanks him for reconstructing the lake, and he sheepishly replies that he hasn't done anything yet. The girl makes an uncultured joke, and the guy tells her to get to work, pulling her ears in retaliation. He moves on and realizes that he doesn't know what he's going to ask her for. While still in the mayor's office, the guy said that he was not God. The guy finds it hard to say whether he can bring the lake back. Klen asks if he remembers the slums. She notes that life there has only gotten worse and the lake disaster is to blame. The sisters say that if the lake comes back to life, they will all be able to return home and be safe. The mayor tells him to imagine that he can bring the dried-up oasis back to life. The old man notes that his fame will then skyrocket, people will call him a hero and will depict him on goods. Klen adds that he will become super elite. He assures them that he cannot resurrect lakes. The Raja approaches him from behind. She hugs him around the neck from behind and begs him to try because it is very important to them. Maple tries to seduce him. He indignantly asks her what she is doing in the presence of her father. The mayor asks if he should leave. This angers Yuli even more. The guy shouts that he understands. Everyone smiles sweetly and asks him again. The guy sheepishly says that he will get into trouble if he doesn't take on this matter. He also doesn't want Bardiel to try to make his life difficult any further. He decided that even if he failed, he had to show that he was sincere. Julius remembers saying this, but being in a deserted place, he dies from the heat. The maple tree is hanging on his shoulders, and she is also very hot. Sweat is pouring off them like rain. Raja suggests they rest until the sun sets. The others agree. Klen pulls the hero's cheek and says that she is very upset. The guy asks her to stop tormenting him. He pinches her thigh and she falls off the guy, squealing. The elf is on the ground on all fours, and Julia says that this is retribution, and Raja motivates them to move. Maple stops them, noting that she felt something from the ground. The guy thinks it's something obscene and tries to stop her. The girl says she feels something thin underneath her. The guy looks at her in amazement. The guy sits down next to her and presses his hand to the ground, closing his eyes. Julia senses subtle magic. He asks Raji how deep this magic is. She replies that she is not very good at such subtleties. Maple says that his sister is good at being attractive. She denies it and says that she owns a sword. The guy presses both his hands to the ground, asks them not to quarrel and come closer to him. He says he is going to fight his way through. Raja asks him what he means. He casts an explosion spell, and the ground beneath his hands cracks and breaks into huge dry chunks. Numerous pieces of stone earth are scattered in all directions over a great distance. The ground beneath the heroes also crumbles, and they scream. They all fall down and hit the water with a loud splash. They are carried along by the current and, lying on their backs, they are happy that there was water there and that they are alive. They finally get up and Raja indignantly asks what kind of magic it is. The guy sheepishly says that the ground turned out to be more fragile than he thought, but, pointing to the entrance to the dungeon to which they were brought, notes that it was worth it. They come closer to a large gate. Around it, huge stems were twining and the entrance was cut into the stone wall. They climb onto the threshold, wringing out the moisture from things and looking at the closed doors. The guy says it's a great job. Klen asks to praise her, because she was the first to notice something strange. Raja notes that he doesn't want to praise her anymore. The elf claims that she didn't even know there was such a cavity here. Julius suggests that this could be the reason for the water drying up. The sisters agree with him, and the hero says that there is only one thing left to do. He says with a smile that they need to explore the dungeon. The elves are shocked by his statement. Raja tries to stop him because she feels they are taking a big risk. She points out that he is just an alchemist. The guy says that this is part of their investigation and that it is boring to come here and just report. She puts her hands on his shoulders and suggests that he wait for the research team. The girl asks her sister to help her, but Klen understands that nothing will work. Having escaped Raji's grasp by moving, he calls them to follow him. She asks what that was. The guy explains that it was a short teleportation, but notes that they shouldn't worry about that because there is someone in the dungeon. A group of Sahagin, fish monsters with intelligence that allows them to use various types of weapons, and a group of Ents, tree monsters that grab living creatures and feed on them, have appeared in the dungeon. In total, there were 2 archers, Sahagin, and 3 Ents standing in front of them. The fish monsters fired arrows at the heroes. Yuli teleports behind the Sakagins and jumps down on them from above. The monsters don't understand what's happening. With one swing of 2 daggers, he cuts off the heads of the monster archers. Klen takes a staff and reduces the agility and defense of enemies. Raja runs past her and attacks one of the Ents with a stabbing blow, making a huge hole in the tree's body. Maple sends a fireball towards enemies. Another Ent is cut by Julius and Raja says he's gone mad. She asks him why the Alchemist is in the vanguard. The guy replies that he's more efficient. The elf notes that it's against the rules. After the fight, Raja admits that she has never seen magic used like that. Maple, collecting crystals from the defeated monsters, suggests that this is the reason why her people didn't like her. The guy also thinks that he has a bad character. Raja notes that he lacked the dexterity to succeed. Klen says that he had too much common sense. The boy is indignant that his captors are saying all this. After the complaints, the investigation continued, and they hid behind rocks, watching other Sahagins. The boy told the sisters that he would go around from the other side, and they should go on the attack. The girls agreed and were already running to attack. As the elves ran to attack, Julius thought that these 2 were among the best in the country. Raja cuts off the head of another Sahagin with his sword. The guy thinks that the sisters' combat level is very high and they can move in response to his actions. Julius muses that they are the most beautiful of all, real adventurers, and that it will be fun. Klen says that he misses Sahagin and doesn't want to eat fried fish anytime soon. The guy asks where he came from first. The elf replies that he came from the dungeon. He notes that this dungeon was originally arboreal, and the monster does not belong to this species. Raja suggests that Lake Mach has an influence on the dungeon. Arin does not rule out this option. They approach another gate, and the guy excitedly declares that he feels that the boss will show up here. The girls are against them going there as a threesome. Maple, trembling, promises that when the battle is over, she will lash him with a whip. The boy says she can do it lightly. The sisters think that in that case, he will get off too easily. They go inside and see a hermit crab covered with a hard shell and whose water jet is very dangerous. Julius recognizes the monster and realizes that the fight will be problematic due to its impenetrable shell and its pungent smell. At this moment, the monster attacks. They use a boulder to shield themselves from the water jet. Raja says that they need to weaken him, and Maple lowers his defense again, and the monster is ready to attack. Raja aimed her slash attack straight at the monster's claw, but nothing happened to the shell. Raja screams that he is too hard. The guy appears next to the monster and presses his hands to the ground, screaming that if it doesn't work from above, he will try from below. The monster raises its huge claw to attack Julius. The girls call his name in concern. The guy conjures an earthen bayonet that appears right under the monster's belly and pierces it right through. Looking at the dead monster, Julius says that they have won. Raja says it was too crazy, and the guy, standing in front of her, says she's worrying too much. Klen is happy that they won, and the hero agrees with her. The elf notices that there is a treasure chest there. Raja asks what is in it. There were 2 chests, one bigger and one smaller. The guy notes that 2 chests appear rarely. Klen says that the big one is for the greedy and they need to open the small one. Julius says that both can be opened and opens the lid, starting with the big one. Klen is shocked by his carelessness. He is surprised by the contents. The boy takes out a spool of silk and examines it. The sisters are amazed by the find. He admits that he has never heard of artifacts that would be a labyrinth trap. Raja takes the cloth in his hands and is surprised that something like this could come across other than precious stones. Klen asks if this is fate. The guy says to take the fabric if they like it. The girls are very happy about it. Julius exhales and says that he will never understand women. The guy opens a smaller chest and sees a roundish thing lying on top of the coins. He doesn't know what it is. Sierra says the creature looks like a doll. Julius notes that it is small and strange, but also very cute. The creature asks where it is. The heroes are shocked that it can talk. They are in Shambhala. Sierra introduces herself and introduces Julius as John. He gets angry, but the robot manages to register him. The robot repeats their names, Maple, Sierra, and John. Julius angrily shouts that he is not John, while the girls giggle. Sierra asks the robot to change its name, but it says it can't. The girl is touched and appoints the robot as her henchman. The creature explains that he is an organizational robot created by the creator to assist him. He invites the heroes to ask him any question. Julius asks why Lake McCloud disappeared. Sierra wonders how the robot would know, but he asks them to look in one direction. They see water pouring out of a huge crack. The robot explains that a cavern formed under the lake, blocking the underground water flow. The girls happily ask if the oasis will come back to life if all the leaking holes are sealed. The robot confirms that it will. The question arises as to how exactly to close the holes. Some suggest that with ice magic it will be quite easy to do. Sierra hopefully asks Julius if there's anything he can do about it. He's surprised and asks why. The girls tell him it's because he's an elitist, a lunatic, and just because it's him. Julius is confused, but flattered. Julius seriously states that it is possible. He is sure that there is a way, but the girls are against it and do not want him to leave. He explains that the Royal Library in Zweig is full of books on the subject, and he is simply going to borrow them. Maple, with tears in his eyes, screams that no, because they have already become a family. He asks if they trust him. The young man says with a grin that they won't listen to him anyway, but he has already decided everything for himself. He firmly answers, correct. Sierra says that if he doesn't come back, they will come for him because they like living together. He asks her not to worry and promises to come back soon. Both girls wish him good luck and say with a smile that they will wait for him at home. Julius enters the portal, thinking that his heart is already in Shambhala. The action moves to the kingdom of Zweig. A sinister man sees Julius arrive and with a malicious grin wonders what will happen next. Julius reflects that long distances are covered on foot. He thinks it would take about half a day to get to Zweig. He wonders if this world has an end, but he understands that this is still unclear to the magicians. The young man remembers the instructions of his master: do not stray from the path of light, do not remain in this space, and do not move with others. Julius realizes that he knew nothing about dimensional magic except what the master taught him. As he approaches the exit, he wonders what is happening in Zweig now. He is met by an elderly nun, whom he calls the director with a smile. The director says with relief that he is okay. Yuli apologizes for the trouble and hands her a bag of money. She sadly asks if he really betrayed the country, but immediately adds that the main thing is that at least he is alive. He asks what the people from the castle wanted. The director replies that they left after a quick search of the orphanage. She says she was promised a reward for him. Julius jokingly calls her greedy, and she asks him to stop calling her like he's a child. His friend Marius appears and is surprised that Julius is still in the country, since he caused him so much trouble. Marius complains that his workshop was confiscated because the nobles do not like it when commoners earn money. Julius says he has good feelings for him. Marius jokes that he should thank the officials then. Marius offers to help, even make a bomb. Julius notes that serious people behave badly, losing their composure. He invites Yuli to live with him, promising 3 meals and sleep, after learning that he lives abroad. Julius accepts his offer with gratitude. He thinks that Marius has been his best friend for a long time. Marius is embarrassed and asks not to touch him. Julius says that he needs to go to prepare something. The young man thanks the director for the reception, saying that it is already late. Marius asks him to wait. Julius notes that the castle's security is impressive, probably due to the flow of people wanting to get rich. But he is sure that this is nothing compared to his transfer magic. He enters the royal library hoping that no one is guarding it. The young man sees Elvins, the chief core magician, in the library. He tries to slip past unnoticed, knowing he can't afford to be discovered, but Elvins sneezes loudly, almost giving him away. Julius panics and realizes that he needs to take all the necessary books and leave as quickly as possible. He quickly collects the books, thinking that if it weren't for the master he would have more freedom to search. Julius is terrified of Elvins, he just doesn't want to deal with them. Having collected everything he needed, he thinks with relief that it is time to go, and leaves the library. He is glad to finally see his master's face, noting how many gray hairs he has, and wishes him a long life. Suddenly he feels that something is wrong and, confused, asks where he is. He suggests that perhaps he himself messed up the transfer spell. Julius looks around and realizes with horror that he is in the middle of a huge, empty coliseum. And this is not a problem on his side, but someone else rewrote the coordinates. Elvins appears and says that it is impolite to leave without even saying hello. Julius is horrified when he pronounces Elvins' name. Elvins looks at him sternly, calling him his negligent student. Elvins demands to be called Master Elvins rather than just Master. Julius replies that it doesn't matter. The master notes the disrespect in the student's words and directly asks why he rewrote the transfer coordinates. He smirks and calls Julius an idiot student who ran away and now sneaks around like a little thief. The master asks with a grin if it wouldn't have been wise to at least say hello. Julius takes a fighting stance. Julius asks if all this was really done just for this. The master promises to let him go depending on his answer. Julius sarcastically apologizes and then firmly states that he will not return and this is his final decision. The master is furious that Julius has once again used the dimensional magic he had forbidden. The young man replies that it is not up to him to decide. He shouts at the teacher not to get cocky. The teacher and the student face off. Julius understands that if he relaxes even for a moment, he will die. Elvins calls his actions base, but Julius declares that he is no longer a magician but a new kind of alchemist. The master says with a malicious grin that he now understands everything. Elvin states that as a former teacher he must punish the negligent student. Julius understands that this is very bad. He prepares to use a special killing technique, releasing his most powerful explosive magic with a furious cry. Julius stands against the master. The master understands that the student is only capable of cheap tricks. He is shocked to realize that Julius has placed a bracelet of silence on him, cutting off his magic. The master asks where he learned such tricks. Julius replies that he recently met a guy who knows a thing or two about it. The man asks if he wants to fight and announces with a smile that he thinks he'll give up. He says that a master cannot be serious with his disciple and takes off his bracelet of silence. But then he delivers a devastating teacher's strike to him, causing Julius to cry out in pain. He says that scolding children is the responsibility of adults, and as a reward for winning, he hands him an old book. The man explains that he wrote a book on alchemy out of curiosity when he became an alchemist and asks him for forgiveness. He says he spent 3 years trying to get it back and worked his ass off to get the charges dropped. Julius thanks him with tears. The master remembers that he wanted to bring him back when they destroyed the neighboring country. The master orders his foolish apprentice to leave. Julius suggests that he leaves weak and go with him. He refuses, saying that adults are not so free. Julius worries that without the master, Zweig will fall into decay. Julius hands him the potion, saying that it is not from Zweig, and asks him to accept this gift. The master is alarmed to realize that if this becomes known, the kingdom of Zweig will suffer greatly. He says with a grin that he is getting more and more bored here and hopes that now he will be able to drink while sitting on the royal throne. Julius remembers how as a child he thought that the master had abandoned him and despaired, but now he knows that this was not so. He admits that he still cannot compare with him. The master calls Shambhala a good country and says that he is sorry to say goodbye. The master bids farewell to his foolish student. Julius shyly asks him to drink in moderation. Julius disappears into the portal, thinking that it is time to return to his new home. Meanwhile, in Shambhala, the girls report to the mayor about the discovery made in the labyrinth under the lake. The mayor is amazed to see the huge gems. The girl confirms that it is amazing. The mayor says that the coincidence that happened twice is fate. He suggests that the labyrinth has blessed them. Sierra asks if Maple has made up her mind. She says she wants to support him because he seems like someone she's known her whole life. Maple says outright that Sierra loves Julius. She sheepishly admits that she doesn't hate him that much, and Maple agrees with her. The girl thinks shyly that if she were alone with him, she would probably like it. Sierra wonders sheepishly if he would like her back. The servant says that together they will make Master Julius fall in love with them. The mayor nervously thinks that he will trick him into marrying his daughters because it is simply a necessity. The robot congratulates the girl on her upcoming marriage, and she, laughing, thanks him. When Julius returns, Robot greets him as John. He angrily says that he is not John. Julius asks where everyone else is. The robot replies that they have already left. He suggests that he rest until dinner. Julius agrees and asks to wake him up when dinner is ready. The robot thinks to himself that now Plan B comes into effect. The girl sits by the bed of the sleeping Julius, saying that he traveled thousands of miles to get to them by the will of fate. She thanks him. Julius asks why she looks so sad. Julius wakes up at dawn realizing that he has slept too long. He thinks the damn golem didn't even wake him up. Suddenly, he is shocked to discover that one of the girls is sleeping in his bed. The girl in bed wishes Julia good morning and he asks in surprise what they are doing here. The girls sheepishly make excuses that they simply mixed up the beds. Julius calls this a pathetic excuse. Yuli is outraged why they are dressed like that. The girls say that they always dress like that, but the guy shouts at them to stop lying. One of the girls cuddles up to him, saying that he is too cold and needs to be warmed up. The second sister joins her, declaring that their plan is working. Julius, in a panic, shouts that she is going there too. The guy, pressed from both sides, is completely confused about what to do with these two. The sisters look at him with sly and embarrassed faces, not intending to retreat. Julius, finally losing his patience, shouts at them to stop immediately. The sisters continue to tease him. One of them asks him with a grin if this is the first time he has been in such a situation. Julius smells something strange. He screams in panic for them to get away from him immediately. The girls start sniffing his hair. One of them praises her sister, and the guy yells at them to stop. One of them whispers in his ear that this is his reward for returning, and advises him to enjoy it. Julius asks for a minute, shouting that he can't take it anymore. One of the girls laughs, saying that he always ruins everything, and asks why his stomach is growling. She suggests breakfast, because she can't let her husband go hungry. The girl asks her sister to bring her some elven water. While the girls are distracted, Julius runs out of the room, thinking that it was very close. The girls appear at the door, promising that next time they won't let him escape. Julius falls onto the bed. The girl apologizes for not waking him, saying that she had prepared a festive meal, but he was sleeping so soundly that she did not dare. Yuli raves about how delicious it is. One sister is glad he liked it, and the other says that her sister trained for a long time. One of the sisters says that she needs to gather information from a book. The other says that she has already conducted research on a strange soil called Konkel. Julius reads in a book about a liquid material that instantly hardens and can help if applied to a frozen leek. One of the sisters orders him to do this, but he categorically refuses, asking why this is even necessary. The little golem Nia appears and says he's ready to work. Julius panics and yells at him to shut up, while his sister continues to tease him. Julius orders the golem to search for coins on the street. The sister is disappointed by such a terrible order, but the golem Nia immediately agrees. Julius muses that he has never seen a golem with such intelligence, and recalls that the labyrinths sometimes yield rare artifacts. One of the sisters says that Nia is nice because he helped her hang up the laundry. The other one thinks that he looks like a little fairy. Julius thinks that such golems are very rare. Meanwhile, his sister scolds him for giving Nia a terrible order. One of the sisters asks Yuli what his plans are for today. He shyly replies that he would like to rest. The sisters smile and offer him to go shopping with them, which surprises him greatly. Yuli asks if they will tell him the details. One of the sisters tells him to wait a little and see everything for himself. The boy says he has a bad feeling. The girl smiles, saying he will be glad, and the other confidently declares he will like it. Julius thinks that the sisters are acting strangely. He understands that after the events of the morning, he cannot let his guard down. He says he'd like to pick up the ingredients for the cocktail while they're in town. Kane says they'll take care of it, but Julius stubbornly replies that it's his job and he wants to do it perfectly. Trent materials, and earth crystal. The girl says that there will be no problems with materials from the Trents, but as for the earth crystal, there may not be enough reserves on the market. The girls discuss digging a new labyrinth. Julius agrees, but notes that importing it will take too long. While Julius is thinking about how nice it would be if labyrinths could be dug out more easily, they come to the store. The owner of the shop, the elf Amina, joyfully greets the princesses, inviting them to enter. She says that everything is ready, although the dress is not yet finished. Julia is surprised by the mention of a veil. The sisters, dressed in wedding attire, ask Julius if their appearance intrigues him, but he cannot utter a word. One of the sisters teases him, saying that he loves looking at her so much. Julius, in a panic, shouts for them to wait. Yuli is completely shocked to realize that in front of him are his sisters in real wedding dresses. He understands that they lured him here to hint at this. The young man is embarrassed but cannot look at them. The sisters look at him with a smile, and Julius, unable to contain himself, shouts that they are too cute. Kane continues to tease him, telling him not to hold back. Julius tries to calm her down, but to no avail. Eventually, he gives in, suggesting they go shopping next time. Then he asks what else they need. Kane bids farewell to the other, asking her to take care of things. Julius asks where they are going next. The girl declares that their next stop is a date. Julius is completely shocked by her words. Kane asks with a smile if it was a date since he was dating Mabel. Sierra sheepishly suggests they get out of here. She explains that she is not actually the city leader's biological child, just like Mabel and Sally. The girl explains the mayor's habit of helping orphans and taking them under his wing. Julius asks the other one where she is from, but she doesn't know. The boy asks why she is called a princess. She is not sure, but says that the old people call her that because she may be from some tribe. Sierra explains that she is called that because she resembles the queen who ruled this country when it was green. The girl asks Yuli to tell about himself. He says that his parents abandoned him, he grew up in an orphanage, and then he was picked up by a master and became a magician. She asks if he's ever dated anyone. He says he only dates guys and, embarrassed, chokes on his drink. The girl asks him if he has anyone. He replies that he has no one. She suddenly asks Yuli what he thinks about marriage. He replies that he doesn't know, and for them it's probably a political decision. Sierra wonders if humans are like that. He explains that nobles do that, but he is just a commoner. She sadly asks if he doesn't like her. Yuli sheepishly tries to explain that it's not about that, but she insists that it's a question of feelings. The girl turns away and quietly says that she does not need a wedding decided by the will of her parents. Sierra looks at him and states outright that she is happy with him. Julius, completely embarrassed, cannot utter a word, looking away from her directness. Suddenly, the golem Nia returns, reporting that he has collected a lot of coins. Julius praises him. Julius happily praises Nia, saying that he is a good boy. He decides that it is time for them to go home, thinking that he could not decide. One of the advisors is outraged that the reason for the disappearance of Lake Mach, proposed by Julius, is complete absurdity. He says that they could not find the reason, and this man decided everything. Another advisor reproaches him for not knowing the name of Julius. The elder tells them to remember the desert merchant, and now he will allow him to speak. The old man approaches the table, grabs the bag, and calls for Julius with a shout. At the Adventurers Guild, they are met by the guild leader named Gilliam, who greets them with a wide smile. Julius is confused when Gilliam asks him to call him just Gilly, and places his hand on his shoulder. The boy asks if they have earth crystals. Gilly asks why he needs them, but Julius says it's a secret. Gilly regretfully reports that they are unfortunately out of earth crystals. The elder explains that the guild is new, and they urgently needed to collect materials for potions. The man says that now is the time to think about exporting potions. Julius agrees that this is a good idea. The elder sees this as an opportunity and decides to begin coordinating transport routes with the merchant guilds. Julius asks for other materials, explaining that he has a secret weapon for excavating the labyrinth. The hero announces with a smile that they will dig up an earthen labyrinth. The sisters are shocked by such recklessness. Kane reminds them that last time they were limited by a lake, and the desert is too big. Julius smiles and scratches Mabel's cat behind the ear, telling her that she shouldn't do that. The sisters are amazed at her dexterity, but Julius says that there is no need to worry because he has a plan. He takes out a silver guiding hand. Sierra asks in surprise what it is. Julius explains that with this staff one can find labyrinths buried deep underground. The young man suggests splitting up to find the labyrinth, and says that Tia will go with him. Julius says it's a beautiful day as he and Tia ride a camel through the endless desert. The girl says that sandstorms are rare in this country. Julius replies that it is always sunny here. Julius, blushing, admits that he is a little nervous after their last date. He panics and thinks he doesn't know where to look. The hero says, embarrassed, that he has reactions in the lower half of his body and asks not to think about it. Tia says he'll have to bathe. He asks why she thinks he likes to bathe, and she says he takes a bath every morning. Julius panics when he realizes that she was spying on him. He tries to justify himself by saying that her hair was wet, so he thought so. The girl thanks him for the compliment, and he panics and screams at her to forget everything, realizing that it was a bad idea. He tries not to think about it, but he can't. Tia notices that the tip of the wand is pointed in a certain direction. Julius says that it looks like they have found the labyrinth. He asks her to step back so that he can try to break through the entrance. The girl is worried, but he calms her down, saying that he has everything under control, although in his heart he is afraid that he will not be able to bear it. He deals a powerful blow to the ground, creating a huge explosion and opening a passage deeper. They find a labyrinth, but it's not what they need. Tia says the door is too far away and they'll have to look elsewhere. The girl says she was very worried when he went his like alone to save her. He thanks her, but she replies that she returned of her own free will, not because she was kidnapped. The hero says that they are like family to him. She is very happy to hear this. Suddenly they notice Mabel. Mabel finds what they were looking for. They find an entrance to another labyrinth. Julius suggests that they rest while they can. He says with a sly smile that now they will conquer this labyrinth. The girls are scared by his determination. One says her feet are already getting cold, and the other says that this side of him scares her. Julius says that in Zweek, an earthen labyrinth is common, and he wonders if the climate has a bearing on it. Tia advises to be more careful, but Julius replies that he is simply used to it. After all, he was a court magician. He recalls being sent hundreds of times to earn money under the guise of training in the labyrinths. A turtle with a huge gem on its shell attracts the hero's attention. Julius notes its quick reaction. It turns out to be a destroyer turtle, which explodes when attacked, as described. Julius notices that the turtle is starting to glow. He warns everyone that it is self-destructing and will explode in a few seconds. The sisters are frightened by such an unexpected monster, but Julius reassures them, saying that this is a very rare species. Julius says that if there were only monsters like this here, the labyrinth wouldn't be so difficult, and that's true. He explains that many places here are traps. Suddenly, one of the sisters steps on a slab, and a hole opens up underneath her. They fall into a trap, the House of Monsters, from which many enemies will now emerge. They are surrounded by giant bats, earth golems, and ratmen, and the sisters don't understand why there are so many of them. Sierra tries to attack, but her attacks don't work against the golems. She shouts that they need to assess the situation. Kane creates a wall of fire, burning the golems, and notes with delight how funny it looks when they burn. Mabel screams in horror at the sight of a rat, and Tia wonders why the cat is so afraid of mice. The girl, having overcome her fear, resolutely declares that she will do it. Julius says that he is the #1 adventurer in Shambhala, and they will see it through to the end, inspiring everyone to fight. They break through the trap. Julius notes their excellent teamwork and asks if they are getting used to the dungeon. The sisters shout in one voice that they don't want to get used to this. Yuli says with a smile that he will have to anyway. Tia asks if Mabel is okay, and she replies that she is fine and says she will be right back. The heroes approach large doors, behind which, apparently, is the boss's room. Julius says that this is unexpected, and Tia adds that this maze should be called the Labyrinth of the Jeweled Turtle. A huge turtle with a giant gem on its shell appears before them, and they cannot believe their eyes. This is the Ruin Royal Turtle, a special species that rarely evolves due to the accumulation of magical ore. Julius worries that if it explodes, the labyrinth will collapse, but Tia reassures him, saying that no labyrinth has ever been destroyed by an explosion. Tia says it's better to die under the rubble than to fight, but Julius suggests trying to defeat the turtle. Julius says it's a man's natural need to defeat such a monster, and Mabel says that as an adventurer, she knows better. The hero says he can deal with her with magic and suggests coming back later. Tia panics and screams at him not to do it. The sisters unanimously say that you need to be prepared for anything, because unforeseen circumstances may arise. He decides that if the turtle explodes, he will put a magical shield on them. Julius charges forward, shouting that he wants to defeat this turtle too badly. He notices that the turtle begins to glow and realizes that this is very dangerous. Tia screams that it's not safe, but suddenly her legs get stuck. Sierra panics that they're all going to die. Julius says that even though she is big, they are all the same, and prepares to use his magic. He creates a huge block of ice and slams it onto the turtle, freezing it completely. The hero grins and tells the turtle to go ahead and explode while standing in a safe place. Mabel screams in horror, realizing that an explosion is inevitable. Mabel scolds Julius for not warning them about the explosion. He apologizes, and the sisters don't understand what's going on. One of the sisters says she can't move her legs. Julius asks Mabel for help, as they are closer to the epicenter than he planned. He offers to feed them a nice dinner, but Tia screams at him to just help them get out of here. Julius creates a powerful barrier to protect everyone from the debris using his barrier magic. Mabel happily shouts that they are alive. Julius calmly says that he told them that they would not die here. In the cave, they find many earth crystals. Tia asks her sister if she is okay, but she still can't feel her legs. Julius examines her legs and realizes that it is petrification poison and cannot believe how this is possible. Mabel remembers seeing a strange rat. She apologizes, thinking it was her fault, but Julius reassures her. Tia asks what about the fever reducer, but Mabel says she doesn't have any. The girl says they have an elixir. Sister says she's already tried the elixir, but it seems to be useless against petrification. Julius is shocked that the elixir doesn't work. He was so caught up in the fight that he didn't even notice what happened. Tia, with tears in her eyes, begs Julius to save her sister, saying that at this rate she will die in a few hours. The injured sister says she is ready and asks Mabel not to give up, but she does not want to lose her. Mabel asks how she can help. Julius says there is only one way to take her to the workshop. He explains that the cure for petrification is described in a book, and if he manages to transfer it, he will be able to prepare it. Tia agrees with tears in her eyes, saying that she too cannot imagine life without her sister. Julius promises to save her sister, saying that they will see each other in their workshop. He hugs Tia tightly, promising that he will not let her sister die and will take care of her. The girl quietly calls Yuli's name as he carries her on his back. He asks what is going on. Julius asks her not to blab too much, saying that it will be very painful for him if she dies. Sierra says he's not surprised by a war over resources, and he replies that where there's wealth, there's war. The girl admits that it is her fault. She looked into his past, but he entered the labyrinth unprepared. She's afraid that if something happens to her, Mabel will hate him, but he says that grief can change anyone. The girl asks him to save her sister. He promises that he will definitely save her, but only with her and only like this. Yuli is shocked. How does she know what he is thinking? She replies that she sees everything in him and that his name used to be Yuri and he was nice. He screams that this is madness, because it is a mind meld, and asks if this is legal. Julius panics as memories of her rush into his mind. In his memories, the image of a beautiful girl, a real princess of Shambhala, emerges. Long ago, there was a dynasty of Mahoroba which united all the elves of the world. One queen led this dynasty to 1,000 years of eternal peace and tranquility. But according to legend, this great dynasty collapsed overnight. Hundreds of years later, she was born, the last of the great ancestors, the 1,000-year-old queen of Zonokan. The girl says with a smile that her name is Shayla, Zonokana Tennis, and turns to the parents. She was given the same name as her ancestors, and as a child her family called her princess, but her happiness came to an end. Her father lost the power struggle and now they don't know what to do because they are not respected as a queen. One day, when she was 4, her father came into her room while she was looking at a portrait. Her father, with an expression of mixed sadness and determination on his face, told her to listen very carefully. He said that he and his mother had to leave this place and go very far away. The girl asks where they are going. The father replies that it is a difficult journey, they cannot take her with them. He says that from now on Shambhala will protect her, and they leave her with the city mayor. She asks how long this will last. Her parents say they will come for her when they find the missing queen. The mother adds that it could take 5, 10, or even 100 years. The girl runs after them in tears, begging them not to leave and to take her with them, but her parents say that they are very sorry. Yuli is shocked by this memory. He does not understand how one can forget such an important event. He says that this is a childhood memory because he himself was abandoned as soon as he was born. An image of a hooded woman appears in his memory, leaving him at the door of the shelter. He looks at the woman, quietly saying, "Mom," but she walks away without looking back. Julius says that this place even evokes forgotten memories. He turns away, saying he doesn't want to see it again. The girl says that her legs are getting heavy and the petrification is spreading quickly. Julius promises that he will soon cure her. She thanks him, but then passes out. Julius is in a panic, not understanding what is happening. The girl says that she knew that he would help Shambhala, and is glad that she chose him, and disappears into the portal. She asks him to save Shambhala for her sake. He embraces her, and she faints in his arms. The heroine confesses that she loves him more than anyone in the world. He, pressing her to himself, shouts with determination that he will not let her die.